Hello, this is your lecture video for section 7.1, percent, fractions, and decimals. The word percent comes from a Latin word percentum, which means out of 100. And we use this symbol, to represent percent. So in general, n percent means n out of 100 or n over 100. What percent of the square below is shaded? So this is 10 by 10. So there are 100 total little squares. That's our denominator of 100. If 4 of them are not shaded, that would mean 96 of them are shaded. 96 over 100 translates exactly to 96%. So when the denominator is 100, we can go straight to a percentage because percent means out of 100. The government agency reported that in 2023, 38 out of every 100 Americans had at least a bachelor's degree. What percent of Americans had at least a bachelor's degree in 2023? So 38 out of every 100 had the bachelor's degree. Because this denominator is 100, we can go straight to a percentage. So this would be 38%. A new shampoo company claims the following: we guarantee that our new shampoo formula will remove 200% of your dandruff. What's wrong with this statement? Well, 100%, like visually, that's when everything is shaded. That's when we have 100 out of 100, or we have 38 out of 38, or we have 5 out of 5. In other words, we have all of the whole included. So what's wrong with this statement is we don't have more than 100% of dandruff. So that would be impossible. Give an example of a situation where it is okay to have a percent greater than 100. It is possible to have over 100%, and that would be when you're talking about more than one whole thing. So it could be the growth of, let's say you have a savings account and your savings account doubled itself. It's now at 200% of where it started from. We could have, if we compared rainfall from one day to the next, and the second day it rained maybe twice as much, that would be more than 100%. So there are times where we can have more than 100%. Converting a percent to a fraction. To convert a percent to a fraction, replace the percent symbol with the fraction 1 over 100, and then simplify to lowest terms if possible. Okay, so example, 9%. This really means 9 times 1 over 100, and this 9 is understood to be over 1. So this is 9 over 100. You can just go straight here. 32% means 32 out of 100, and then we can simplify that. These are both divisible by 4. 120% would mean 120 over 100. They are both divisible by 10. That cuts off that last 0 and leaves us with 12 over 10, which is also, these are still divisible by 2. So 6 over 5, or 1 1/5 if you go to a mixed number. Converting percent to decimals. Convert to a fraction first. I'm going to teach, this is accurate. I'm going to do something, let's see, maybe I'll keep it the same. All right, we can do this. 17% means 17 out of 100, because that percent sign translates to out of 100. And then we'll grab the calculator and do 17 divided by 100 and see that this is equivalent to 0.17. Let's see, so convert to a fraction first by putting it over 100. Use your calculator to divide. The steps above are equivalent to moving the decimal 2 places to the left. Yes. So notice that this 17 percent. The decimal is not there, but by default, it's understood to be there. When the percent sign, when we are translating or converting from percent to decimal and taking the percent sign off, that's the same thing as dividing by 100, which moves the decimal 2 places to the left, which is what we ended up with. So that's doing the same thing. So I'll show both ways and you pick up whichever works best for you. 0.68 as a percent turn to fraction, that would be 0.68 divided by 100. When we divide by 100, you can either use your calculator or just move the decimal 2 to the left. Here's what we would end up with. So 0.68% is equivalent to 0.0068. Next one, 142% means 142 divided by 100. Either do that on the calculator or move the decimal 2 to the left. Right now the decimal is not present, but it's understood to be here. So that would moving that 2 to the left would be 1.42. And notice that this 1 is to the left of the decimal. That's 1 whole and 42 out of 100 parts. And notice that 142 is like it's having 100% plus 42 more percent. Here's the 1 and then here's the leftover. According to the US Census, 76% of US workers commute to work by driving alone. Write 76% as a decimal. And that would be 0.76. So either divide by 100 or just move that decimal 2 to the left. The chance of having natural triplets is 0.014%. Write that percent as a decimal. So you can either divide 0.014 by 100 or just move that decimal 2 to the left. When we move the decimal 2 to the left, there are empty positions there, and those get filled by placeholder zeros. So that would be 0.00, and then we already have the 0.014. To convert a decimal to a percent, multiply the decimal or fraction by 100%, and note that the step above is equivalent to moving the decimal 2 places to the right and adding a percent symbol. So doing kind of the opposite of what we just did. Convert each decimal to a percent. 0.83, if we read that, that's 83 tenths hundredth. So that's 83 over 100. Or same thing as 83%. 1.35. That's 1 and 35 hundredths. If I change that, or yeah, we could just say that that's 1 point, sorry, let me back up. 135%. I'm going to note here. This moves the decimal 2 to the right. We're multiplying by 100%. 0.729. When we multiply, I'm working each one of these a slightly different way to show you some variety in how you could think about that. So I'm aware of that, and I'm just showing some variety. You pick up on what works best for you, and know that you can go back and rewind this and hear something again. 0.729. If we multiply by 100%, that would actually be moving by 100. That moves the decimal 2 to the right, and that would be 72.9%. 0.0008, if I move the decimal 2 to the right, that would be 0.0, whoops. Hold on just a second, my technology. My apologies for that break there. I had a technical difficulty. Let me get back to where we left off. Give me just a second. Okay, so we left off at this last example, 0.0008. Let me back up to where I actually left off with you. If we move that decimal 2 to the right, it would be sitting here. And so we would have 0.08%. Converting fractions to percent. We convert the fraction to a decimal by dividing and then convert the decimal to a percent. So 15 divided by 50 on the I'm going to do this on the calculator. 15 divided by 50 is 0.3. As a percent, that would be 30%. I moved the decimal 2 to the right, and there was this missing place value. We put a 0 there as a placeholder. 5 divided by 12 is 0.416 repeating. When we move the decimal 2 to the right to get it in a percentage, that would be 41.6 repeating percent. Few more. 5/6. 5 divided by 6 on the calculator is 0.83 repeating, which means I'm just going to do this to emphasize what that repeating means. When we move it 2 to the right, we're here to get it into a percentage, 83.3 repeating percent. Okay, 2 and 1/8. I'm going to convert that to a decimal by 1 divided by 8 is 0.125. So this is the same thing as 2.125 and in decimal form. And then as a percentage, move that decimal 2 to the right, so it's 212.5%. And just a connection here, 200% is as a decimal. That's the whole number 2. That's why we're seeing that whole number 2 is more than 1. It's more than 100%. It's the 200%. In a recent poll, 20 out of 25 of the respondents said they own an iPhone. What percent of the respondents own an iPhone? So we're taking this fraction and turning it into a percent. So let's calculator 20 divided by 25 is 0.8. And then as a percentage, that decimal moves 2 to the right. So that would be 80%. Convert fraction to percent and round to the nearest tenth place. So 6 divided by 7 is 0.85714 with some more digits there. Round to the nearest tenth place. Oh, just a second. I went to decimal. I need to go to percent. Let me get this to a percentage by moving the decimal 2 to the right. So that's 85.714. But now we're going to round to the tenth place. So we looked at the digit to the right. So this is 85.7%. 11 divided by 7 is more than 1, so we can expect our percentage to be over 100% on this one. As a decimal, that's 1.5714, and I'll stop it there. When we go to a percentage, that moves the decimal 2 to the right, so 157.1428. If we're rounding to the 10th place, that 1 would stay a 1, and we'd be left with 157.1%. Make sure that this symbol is not forgotten. If that symbol is not there, what we're basically saying is that up here, the 1.57 is equal to 157. That's never true, but with that symbol, that makes it true. So make sure it is important to remember that percent sign. Let's see, writing fractions, given the part and the whole. For each situation, identify the part and the whole, form the associated fraction, and then find the percentage, round to the nearest whole number. In a test with 25 questions, Marlene got 18 correct. Okay, so the whole, sometimes it's easier to identify the whole thing first, is the 25 questions. So the part would be what she got correct. That's 18. So we've identified the part and the whole and formed the associated fraction. So part to whole is how we want to write this fraction. So 18 out of 25, and then find the percentage. So I'm going to do 18 divided by 25. As a decimal, that's 0.72. As a percentage, we'd multiply by that 100 or move the decimal 2 to the right and get 72%. I'm not going to do all of these. Let's do one more though. Let's do this one just so you can see how fractions would play out. Heidi is on a 5 3/4 hour car trip. I'm going to call that 5.75 and just convert that 3/4 to a decimal right now. She has driven 2.5 hours so far. She's driven 2.5 hours so far. So the whole distance, the whole trip is the 5.75. The part is the part she's done, 2.5. So 2.5 over 5.75. When we divide that on a calculator, 2.5 divided by 5.75 is 0.434782. You don't have to write all that. I'm just showing you that it's a lot of digits, but we were asked to round to the nearest whole percent. So when we turn this into a percent, that would be moving the decimal 2 to the right. And so we're here. The whole nearest whole percent is the ones place. Is that closer to 43 or 44? That would round to 43. So 43, and we need that percent. Just make sure I followed all of the directions. Yes. Okay, a computer lab at Northwest Vista has 276 computers running for students' use. 172 of the computers are HPs, 75 are Dells, and the remaining ones are Macs. What percentage are HPs, what percentage are Dells, and what percentage are Macs? So it's like we have three little problems here. The total or the whole is 276. Hewlett Packards. So these are just different name brands of computers. We have 172 of those. We have 75 Dells. And we have Macs. And we don't know how many that is. But we know that when we add these three numbers up, we should be getting 276. So I'm going to say 276 minus 172 minus 75. And whatever's left there is the number that are Macs. Okay, so we have all of our parts and we have the total. We're going to start making the percentages. I'm going to just switch color to emphasize we're going for the percents. So Hewlett Packard's, the percentage, we'd need the part to the total. So we divide that 172 divided by 276 is 0.62318. When we turn that into a percentage, that would be, where are we rounding? Rounding to the 10th. So that would be 62.3%. Dells, the part 75 over the whole 276. When we divide that, we would get a decimal of 0.27173. When we turn that into a percent, decimal moves 2 to the right, so that would be 27.2%. I'm looking at that digit to the right. That's what would round it up to the 0.2. For our Macs, we have 29 out of 276. 29 divided by 276 is 0.10507. Move that 2 places to the right to get it into a percentage form, and that would be 10.5%. Add up all of your percentages from above, and what did we get? So we have 62.3 plus 27.2 plus a 10.5. I'm expecting these better be 100%, but let's make sure. 62.3 plus 27.2 plus 10.5 is exactly 100%. Why was I expecting 100%? Because if we're adding up all of these individual parts, whether it's decimal form, percentage form, when we add up all the parts, we should get the whole. And the whole thing, 100% means the whole thing. So let's say we have this room and my numbers won't be the same, but these many are Dells, this many is Max, and these are the other ones. When we add it all together, we should get one whole, which is 100%. That's your section on percents and converting fractions, decimals, and percents.